Hey guys, okay, so I just filmed this and it ended up being like almost 15 minutes and I wanted it to be under 10. So anyway, this is going to be my hopefully very short April wrap-up. I really only read 3.5 things, but I kept rambling about the second thing. So yeah, I read 3.5 things. The first thing I read was I reread Pride and Prejudice by Jane Austen. This was my first time rereading this in about 5 years, so that was great. And I love it. I listened to the Rosamund Pike audio narration from Audible for the first time, and that was fantastic. She did a wonderful job. For those of you who aren't aware, she actually played Jane Bennet in the 2005 Pride and Prejudice, and I thought she was wonderful in that movie. And most recently, she was actually in A United Kingdom, which is probably one of my favorite, it's definitely one of my favorite movies of this year, and it might be one of my favorite movies ever at this point. I don't know, it was really, really good. But anyway, so she played Jane Bennet in the 05 one, so I think that's why she narrated Pride and Prejudice specifically, and it was really cool because she ended up portraying Jane the same way that she did, mostly the same way that she did in the film, because, you know, when you're just using your voice instead of actually being on camera, it's very different, but yeah, so she narrated her as closely to the way that she acted her as possible, and I thought that was great. But she also did so many distinct voices for all the different characters, so I thought that was really awesome. I just really love hearing actors narrate when they, like, I don't want to say if they're good actors, but like, some actors, I hate to say, can't narrate, but some actors shouldn't be narrators. But most of the time, 9 times out of 10, when an actor narrates an audiobook, they will be awesome at it, even better than a lot of audiobook narrators, because they're very good at distinctive voices. And Rosamund Pike is definitely one of those actors. She just did such a great job. And I was following along in like all my different copies, so that was really fun. So yeah, that was great. And I would say, I don't know what star rating I would give Pride and Prejudice, because I know that I love Sense and Sensibility more, but I still know that I really like Pride and Prejudice. So maybe like a 4 out of 5, or no, like 4.5. Yeah, 4.5 out of 5. That's what I meant. Next, and this is where I got rambly last time, so I'm going to try to make this quicker. I read Lost in Austen by Emma Campbell Webster. I got this out of the library because I was still in a huge Jane Austen mood after finishing Pride and Prejudice, and I should clarify something. There are some people who have read this book or have seen the Lost in Austen miniseries. I don't think anyone who I've seen do reviews of either have seen and read both, but some people are under the misconception that the Lost in Austen, Jane Austen adventure is the book that the Lost in Austen miniseries is based on. That is not true at all. I'm pretty sure Lost in Austen was even written, well, I can't remember if it was written after the miniseries came out or not, but either way, they are totally and completely different. Like, not the same at all. I really enjoy both, but they're not at all the same. So anyway, Lost in Austen, the Create Your Own Adventure book, is really, really great because you start off as Lizzie Bennet, and then, I don't know, say you get to page 15, it'll ask you what the proper definition of decorating a screen is, and you pick A or B, and depending on whether you are correct or not, you go to page 22 or 35, and depending on which page you go to, whether you're right or wrong, it will give you points or deduct points, and it'll say, go to page 45 to continue the story, and it will take you into different Austen, I don't want to say worlds, different Austen books, depending on storylines, different Austen storylines, depending on what you choose. She doesn't put anything in from Sanditon or Lady Susan or the Watsons or anything like that, but she does include all of the other 5 main Austen works, so you can end up in Sense and Sensibility, in Emma, Northanger Abbey, Mansfield Park, or Persuasion as well. And I really, really love this. It's the second time that I've done it, but my gripe is still the same as last time, which is I feel like she's so much harsher than Austen would be. Most of the fates that you end up with are very, they're just cruel, some of them. Some of them are just not nice at all. And it's like the majority of them, I want to say, so maybe like 80% of them. And then the other thing that really bothers me is, since you start as Lizzie Bennet, it's like her endgame is you marrying Darcy because you start off as Lizzie Bennet. And I really wish that you could start off as a OC, like other character as yourself, so that the decisions you make aren't supposed to reflect and mirror Lizzie Bennet's choices throughout Pride and Prejudice, because that's basically what she bases it on. So if you end up marrying anyone else, like any of her other heroes, if you end up marrying some of her scum, obviously the choices are, obviously the fates are supposed to be as cruel as who you marry. Like, if you marry Wickham, you're SOL, sorry. But that's the way it's supposed to be because they're the bad guys. But she has some fates where you can marry other heroes and it just doesn't turn out well. And I don't understand that because, yeah, for a lot of people, Darcy is their favorite, but personally, he's not mine at all. He's like 4th or 5th on the list for me. My all-time is George Knightley, if you guys have been around this channel long at all. And my 2nd is Colonel Brandon, and my 3rd is Henry Tilney. And luckily, I have ended up marrying each one of them in this Create Your Own Adventure. But, for example, there's one thing, and this is the thing that bothers me the most. I'm going to go on a little mini rant, and this video is going to end up being as long as it was before, probably, so sorry. But anyway, for an example of when you marry Mr. Knightley, and that's not a spoiler because you end up, there's situations where you end up marrying pretty much every guy in Austen. So anyway, so then there's a situation where you're marrying Knightley, and right before that, she says, okay, count up all your intelligence points. If you have under 400 intelligence points, go to this page. If you have more than 400 intelligence points, go to this page. And basically, in either case, you still end up marrying Knightley. But if you have more than 400 intelligence points, meaning you are quite intelligent, she says, okay, you're happy for a little while, but then he realizes how smart you are, and he didn't realize that before, so then you end up arguing all the time, and you end up living in separate sides of the house for the rest of your marriage until you both die. And I was like, no, that's not okay, because this is the man who said to Emma, men of sense do not want silly wives, meaning he values intelligence. So the idea that you would say that he doesn't want a smart woman when he has said that he actually does want a smart woman is a little ridiculous. Like, it bothered me so much. I was like, no, nope. So yeah, there were some things that I disagreed with the author on, so that's why I had a few issues with this book, but otherwise, it's really fun. Even if it is like a lot of cruel fates, it's still really fun sometimes. So yeah, for that, I would say 3.5, 3 or 3.5. I do enjoy it. Okay, next up is Dr. Thorne by Anthony Trollope. This is the third book in the Chronicles of Barsetshire series, and I finished this in its entirety in April, and I loved it. It's interesting. I've now also read the fourth one, but I finished that in May, so I'll talk about that in my May wrap-up. But, anyway, so I've read the first 4 of these now, and books 2, 3, and 4 all have 5 stars from me, because they're all really, really good, but I still have favorites among those 3, and I would say my order goes Dr. Thorne, and then that's either tied with Barchester Towers, or it is Barchester Towers is a very, very close second, and then Framley Parsonage comes after that. But this one was amazing. It's definitely my favorite, and it's just so good. My favorite thing about this was definitely Dr. Thorne, and the interesting thing is that it ends up being so that Trollope ends up writing more about Dr. Thorne's niece, Mary, and her love interest, Frank. Like, they end up being in more of the book than Dr. Thorne, but not too much more, I would say. And the thing is, every time his character has a scene in this, his character is just so memorable for me, and he's just the best character in the whole thing. Like, I really, really loved him. I really liked Mary and Frank as well, and a couple of the other characters, but he was just so strongly my favorite that's what made this book my favorite of the series so far. He is fantastic. And it is fantastic. It's just wonderful. So yeah, I loved this, and I really loved the miniseries that Julian Fellowes did recently, where Tom Hollander plays Dr. Thorne, and Stephanie, I want to say her name's Stephanie Martini, plays Mary, and it also has a lot of other faces that I recognized, but whose names can't come to mind right now. But anyway, both were very, very good, and while the miniseries does differ slightly from the book, I still think Fellowes did a pretty good job. Although there were some parts, he does this little, like, fireside commentary, much like the old Masterpiece Theater, which I actually loved that aspect, but some of his fireside opinions and commentary, I was like, I don't know if you understood this book correctly. Because there were a couple things where I was like, that's a stretch. And I'm like, I know, like, most people, I think, would disagree with that statement. But yeah, so I really liked the miniseries, and I really liked his fireside commentary most of the time, but there were a couple opinions that I was like, I don't think most people will read this way, but okay. But yeah, love it. And then Framley Parsonage is book 4, and I loved this a lot. I gave this 5 out of 5 as well, but I only got halfway through it in April, so I'm not going to talk about it in full until my May wrap-up. And actually, for both of these, they're both going to get separate, fuller, spoilery reviews, because there are things that I really, really want to talk about for both of them. So, yes. Okay, so that's my April wrap-up, and I'm sorry it ended up being just as long as before, nearly. So I'll just try to make the other videos pretty quick and short. So thank you so much for watching, and I will talk to you guys later. Bye.